Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. You're a busy man. It's taking care of players. It's free agency. Where are my guys gonna go? It's trading. It's just a busy summer. So we had some news, David. Some things happened in the association over the last 48 hours. Let's jump into it, get some thoughts and what we think going forward. So the biggest domino, Paul George, he decided to opt out of the last year of his deal and enter into free agency, and he was signed by the Philadelphia 76ers on a 4-year, $212 million deal. He will join Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, who also signed a 5-year, $204 million extension, which kicks in this season. So the Sixers are now the latest team, David, to roll out with the big three. And we've made our thoughts known about big threes for a while here. Now, this one's a bit different because the participants, particularly Maxey, of your big three are younger. But two of them, Joel Embiid and Paul George, have a significant injury history. One, Joel Embiid, more so than the other. So those three contracts, David, obviously that puts the 76ers well over the cap. They did sign Kelly Oubre Jr., 2 years, $16.3 million, Andre Drummond, 4.8, and Eric Gordon, $2 million. So I was wondering.
$2 million for Eric Gordon?
Yep.
Minimum, okay.
Which I assume is the vet minimum, yep.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering, David, and again, this is not about, obviously, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid. That's awesome. That is an awesome three-headed monster. But if something happens to one of those guys, you're now hamstrung on what you can do to fill in that gap, right? Because there's nothing. You're going to be picking up dudes off the minimum scrap heap, whatever, because you have no money left. Would you go all in on this way for the three? Or would you say, maybe I can split that Paul George contract into two different guys or three different guys?
Well, let's first think what Daryl's doing. So my guess is Daryl feels like, well, we're not going to win a championship either way if one of our big guys goes down. So I happen to agree with the sentiment of you've got your world's best players, whatever number of guys there are. They're twice as good as everyone else, if not even better than that. All the other guys are about the same with varying degrees of experience, which does, I think, matter. Basketball IQ matters. Emotional intelligence matters. Kind of figuring out life, which young people can do. Normally they don't. Not all older people do as well, but there's a better chance they have for it. Those things matter. And so now we get to coaching. And so to me, the best coaches turn Pritchards and Hausers, to use the latest world champs, into quality role players. And so to me, the question is, Nick Nurse, what do you got? Because you definitely looked great in Toronto, and then you didn't. So what happened? I don't know. Maybe management took that up. Kawhi leaving didn't help, for sure.
Right.
Your opponents losing all their players in the series like the Warriors didn't help. You didn't have that anymore. But yeah, so now let's see what Nick does for the rest of the group. Because as you said, those three guys fucking great.
Oh, yeah.
I also think it's interesting that 34-year-old Paul George gets a big fat deal for how many years? 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
Yeah. As someone who in a different world is on the older side, I don't want to, I'm not ready to quit yet. I feel like I got things to do and things to say and people to help. It's a reminder to all the players out there, take care of your bodies. Although in the Paul George's case, he's been injured plenty, but he's healthy enough to sign the contract.
No doubt.
They're willing to pay you for a long time if you're good, if you're more than good. And so I think if there were two players to get where the aggregate was better than just PG for a team like Philly with Maxey and Embiid, I think that would have been the better play. I don't know that he was able to get two. I'd have to really haven't done that because I didn't think that was the case. But I think you bring up a great point. I think it's worth looking into is could he get two instead of the one? Because then, I mean, if Embiid goes down or Maxey goes down, it probably doesn't matter. Anyway, which I think is what he's thinking. But having two really good players, especially if one could trend up, like find a younger guy even on his second deal, who's still in his mid
Mm-hmm.
20s, early 20s.
Yep.
It's just those guys are hard to find. So I think that's the easier play. And I mean, to me, it's on the coaching staff now to put together the system and strategies required because on paper they have a lot of talent.
Yeah, I mean, assuming this team, which of course we can never do, but assuming they're healthy, this is easily a 55-plus win team in the regular season, without
Yeah,
question. Like
I
they're,
think
they're
so
good
too.
enough to do that.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, though, David. You mentioned if Embiid or Maxey goes down, they're not winning a title anyway. Well, I would argue now with Paul George, if he goes down, you won't win the title either, right? Like with just Embiid and Maxey, because that slot now of Paul George is now empty, right? What are you going to fill it with?
So this, you're probably right. That's probably the case. I would argue it's probably the case. If Paul George isn't healthy, they're probably not going to win a championship. I think they would argue that would be the case no matter what if you lose one of your top three. Unless you can put together a team like Boston that's the starting five of just, terrific
Right.
players. Um, so I think it's on the coach again to build up
Yeah.
those role players. And that's not Nick's strength, by the way. He doesn't give them a lot of
Mm,
playing time. He needs to, in my opinion. He needs to also just to rest his top guys some. Don't wear them down.
correct.
If the Sixers have their top three guys, all the top 20, top 30 minutes played, that's not good.
No.
I'd be monitoring that pretty closely as well. If he and his staff they put together a plan, to develop other guys and get them real minutes, meaningful minutes, and all of a sudden, they're 35-12,
Mm-hmm.
just over the halfway point, and they've got multiple guys outperforming what people thought they might do going into the season. That's a really good sign that they could withstand
Yeah.
any kind of injury for a few weeks. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's the case though.
That's that. No, I think you're right. If on the way to that 55 plus wins I have in my mind, they had to play Embiid and Maxey and George 36 plus minutes a night,
Yeah, that's not big.
that isn't great. We mentioned their draft picks. Jared McCain they picked up, Adam Bone. Of course, as David said numerous times, none of them are going to be ready to help right away.
Certainly not McCain. He's just a teenager.
But you should be thinking about their development, right? And as you
Yep.
said, Nick really isn't the guy to do that. So I mean, you can have two dudes on a roster who don't do anything. That's not helpful. Like, you know what I mean?
I want to be careful. He hasn't been that guy in the last number of years. That doesn't mean coaches say that all the time. I was talking to a longtime Mavericks writer, in a sense. He's not a Mavericks writer, he's a national writer. But
Mm-hmm.
I remember him back in the day when he covered Dallas for him, who has said to me, or he's written to me, can you believe this is the same Rick Carlisle that was in Dallas? The micromanager of the offense, who Luka did not even like playing for, apparently, doing what he's doing in Indiana. Yeah, I can believe it. Coaches can adjust for lots of different reasons. And we'll see if Nick does, because I think he needs to.
Yeah. I think also, last one on Philly, Daryl, I think also probably made the gamble or the calculation in his mind, David. My window with Embiid is really small, right? Given the injury history and everything, we got to go for this now because we saw what happened last year, right? I mean, he missed the end of the season, came back at the end of the playoffs, was clearly labored. Another one more knee injury to this guy, and then do we start seeing a decline, right, in his abilities? So it could be a gamble as well, saying I don't know how much longer I have of this guy being arguably the world's best player.
I think that you're exactly right.
All right, moving ahead to the Oklahoma City Thunder, David, who already had an elite defense. They added in this offseason with free agency and trades. They added the number 2 and number 5 players in defensive estimated plus minus to their team in Alex Caruso, and they signed Isaiah Hartenstein from the Knicks, 3 years, $87 million. They also re-signed Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins to very team-friendly deals. And by team-friendly, I mean looking at what a win costs this past year, $4.14 million, and where those two graded out on estimated wins on dunks and threes. I mean, chef's kiss. Like, right in that sweet spot, give or take $500,000 to $1 million. Sam Presti, genius.
Well, let's see. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to play Hartenstein.
Correct.
Yeah,
We talked
there's a
about this
lot
a
of
little bit this
questions.
morning.
There's a lot of questions about that. What are they? I don't know what they're going to do. He, are they going to play him with Chet? I just, I'm really curious.
Do you?
I wonder
Is it
if,
possible?
hold on, I wonder if uh, Sam realized we can get him because we have the money for it, and now he's ours to move if we want to move him.
Mm,
Yeah,
okay. So later down the line in February or
whatever.
something,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then what about? I don't think this is the case, and OKC fans don't get crazy. Would they consider trading Chet? I don't think they are, but
No chance.
I didn't think
I
so.
mean, I mean, let me rephrase that. A great point you're making. I argued a year ago they traded Chet Ford. Do you remember who?
Yeah, Laurie Markkinen?
No,
No, Giannis.
no, but that's a great one too. Giannis. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I still, wonder about that. But you don't want a non-shooting five. But
correct.
how many threes did Hartenstein even take last year? Two?
Not many.
Yeah. So unless they know there's a secret there that we haven't seen, and I don't know the answer, um, I don't think that is the guy. I don't know who else they would trade Chet for. Certainly not, Jimmy Butler or something like that. It's a
No.
very, very small group. Um, but I think it's an excellent point. Steph Curry. So,
Oh,
not that I think Steph wants to go to OKC,
right,
but someone
right.
of that ilk. Well, now you've got your playoff ready center. I just don't think they're looking to trade Chet. There's very few guys you would trade him for. He's that rare shot blocking 3-point shooter.
Right.
And he's super young.
Who in theory, right, is only going to get better from here, right?
Right.
That's the hope anyway.
Yeah.
With these moves though, David, to your point, I like the idea that they can move Hartenstein, but to me it suggests there's a team that was a number one seed in the West last year. I mean, their young guys are only going to get better with that experience. We hope. We love Dignall as a coach. They still have a ton of draft capital, etc.
Yeah.
Is this with Caruso and Hartenstein particularly? I'm like, they're not old, but they're older, right, than 21 or 22.
Hartenstein's 26, I think. Caruso's
26,
like 30.
yeah. So it's like that to me says, no, we think we get the right slot in of whoever that other second on-ball creator is or something. We're going to make a push for this thing. That's what it says to me. I don't know.
I mean, I think that's clear. This is the business that they're in is a talent acquisition business. You just can't only acquire talent. You have to coach that talent. You got to be able to pay that talent. There's other variables there, but it is a talent acquisition business. And Sam has done a wonderful job of acquiring kind of the opposite almost of what Philly's doing because of the age of all his young players. There's going to be
Right.
a bill that's due.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, just 2 years away, 1 year from the extension, max
Mm-hmm.
extension based on what we're seeing now. So is J-Dub. We'll see how that
Yeah.
goes. So again, I think that Sam recognizes we've got tons of draft capital, and now we've got a big number. What is it? 3-year, 87.
87. Mm-hmm.
You can get a pretty good player at that salary slot.
For
Okay.
sure.
So
Mm-hmm.
my guess is that's what Sam. I'm almost positive that's what Sam was. I have no reporting on this. No one's told me anything. Just when you see some of those kinds of contracts, and as someone who gets involved in the salary negotiations, which I do on free agent side and extensions, that's an argument that we bring up early on in the strategy behind it. Is say the team has to recognize that this guy fits that number now and fits the team now, but if they choose to go a different direction later for whatever reason, that number guarantees the guy you're bringing in, typically anyway, is a high level player who's being paid that much money. You're not going to trade him for a player that's not worth that contract. And
Correct.
so my guess is that's what Sam is doing is he makes us that much better coming off the bench. Don't know if we can play him next to Chet or not. We can certainly experiment.
Yeah, probably not.
They're just fine experimenting. They had a great offense last year. And we know we've got some options if we want to move the left. No problem trading him. No problem.
Yeah, OKC is going to be a player, obviously, for that one seed again this year. David, if Jalen Williams, and this is a big if he makes a leap to all-star level this year, and that's a big jump.
You do it.
And Chet, not quite all-star, but there's like talk about, man, his defense is getting really, shot blocking. He could potentially be in an all-defensive team, maybe, right? And he gets that borderline area. How different is that team than what they were this past season?
I mean, I thought it's there's more nuance than that. They were not a great rebounding team. They were not a good rebounding team. That's a fact. Yeah, their offense got to be pretty basic down the stretch, and that
Yep.
hurt them. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, J-Dub especially, I think, as a playmaker, I personally think he's got to be moved to the three, which is why I was
Yeah, I agree.
intrigued with Hartenstein if they think they can go double big the way we've seen some teams. Who knew JB
Hmm.
Bickerstaff was a forward-thinking guy? But that's what he did with Cleveland, and there's a few others. That double big lineup can matter, and
Yeah.
so yeah, so if J-Dub becomes that second or third cog, I think Chet's best off is the third best offensive player just because you're not asking him too much. Um, then yeah, they could. I mean, they're already number one in the West. Kind of,
Already a one
and they
seed.
won 2 games in the second round. I guess a good Dallas team and Luka Doncic. So I mean, they're
Yeah.
going to be the favorites to win the West, I would think, right now. Denver losing KCP especially.
Oh
Yeah,
boy.
PG leaving Clippers. Lakers
Hmm.
hiring a guy who's never coached before and being the Lakers.
Hmm. Oh my
I don't think JJ is their biggest problem, not by a long shot. Management,
They got a lot
yeah,
of
it's a circus
problems.
there. So, yeah, OKC is looking pretty fat right now.
No, I think you're right. Let's speak about, we should mention the West. Let's go to Dallas, the team that beat Oklahoma City in the conference semifinals. Um, they got Klay Thompson. It looks like when they're still waiting on some parameters about
Yeah,
draft capital and all that. But Klay Thompson, 3 years, $50 million deal in a sign and trade. Josh Green's likely going to end up on the Hornets as part of this deal. Thompson obviously will replace Derrick Jones Jr., who went over to the Clippers, and we'll get to that in a second. So in that spot, David, they're swapping a good defender and a bad offensive player for a knockdown shooter and a not great defender, right? That's essentially the swap they're making.
well, I would see it a little more. Um, it's more complex than that. First of all, I have no idea if Klay Thompson is even going to start. He was good off the bench for the Warriors. I, I would argue they shouldn't start him necessarily.
I agree.
Necessarily. Um, they've got 2 players waiting in the wings. I'm a fan of Najee Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
I liked
That's
him.
right.
I liked him in New Orleans.
As did I.
He's an excellent steals guy. I think one of the best, if I
Mm-hmm.
remember right, in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Who's got
Can
some
shoot it
upside.
too.
But what's that?
Can shoot it too.
Yeah, 39% from three, I think, last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Plays with tons of energy and swagger. I like Najee Marshall. And they've got their first round pick from a year ago, Omax Prosper. And I
Mm-hmm.
talked to a trainer who was working them out, just after they played in the finals 10 days ago, whatever. And he's like, "Oh man, that dude's a monster." Uh, I like both those guys. I think Prosper is much better as a prospect than Derrick Jones Jr. And so you don't have to play Prosper a ton with Marshall there. Have him split the time, 24 minutes, give or take. My guess is Marshall starts early, Prosper starts late. Play is your first guard off the bench, not necessarily on day one. He's got to
Mm-hmm.
buy into that. I don't know if he will. No idea.
Yeah.
But
Correct.
and if he's just playing great, at what is he, 34? Great. But I
Mm-hmm.
think they need more athletic energy because, to your point, uh, uh, play is going to be a huge liability defensively. And their identity in their postseason, not their postseason run, in their second half of the regular season run was, was revolving around their defense. And so
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know what Jason Kidd's going to do, but that's what I would do is go Marshall and Prosper 3. Prosper could also swing and back up PJ Washington to 4. He needs to be in the rotation. Lively Gafford at the 5. Klay
Love
Thompson
that.
backs up Kyrie. Plays some 3 as well. Yeah, that's a nice little group right there.
And Jones Jr. was a big part of that
Yeah,
defense, right? Very
huge part.
long,
Yeah,
athletic, like can chase people around stuff. That ain't really Klay these days.
no,
So
that
that's
isn't at all. Yeah,
so they're gonna have to really, figure out where. And I like your point. I think bench for him for sure is the way to go. Because again, Najee, who by the way his deal is 3 year, $27 million, and I think that's a steal.
a very good deal for the
At
Dallas
that
Mavericks.
money for sure. And I think he will outperform that. Given the right minutes and circumstances over there.
The
So
way
Dallas looking
the
good.
way it's supposed to work is you draft players and if they can end up helping like Lively did in the playoffs, beautiful. But you shouldn't forget about them in year 2 and year 3 and year 4. And that happens more than you think. And, I mean, Lively was a lovely addition. Prosper was a first round pick and a good draft. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you this. I spoke to one head coach this summer in person, and we were talking about the finals and everything, and we mentioned the young guys, whatever. And he said to me, Omax Prosper had the single best workout I've ever seen in pre-draft in my career. This dude's a beast. And then he said, and then someone from his team told me, uh, like he murdered their last shooting drill, which they didn't draft him, by the way, although he went before they could. But like you're supposed to expect these second year players like Lively and Prosper to step
Yep.
forward. Marshall's not old. He's ascending. He should be. Beautiful next to those other guys, including Klay. Got a nice collection of in prime, basically Luka, Gafford
Mm-hmm.
in prime, with up and
Mm-hmm.
coming guys. Kyrie is kind of hanging around just a little bit off his
Mm-hmm.
prime. He is. He's still very good. Yeah, on paper they're very good. They're probably right there with OKC, I would say, just like they should be.
So the question, as you said, comes down to Jason Kidd.
Okay.
Does he give Omax Prosper the oxygen and the runway to breathe and do what's necessary, or the minute he makes a mistake, yanked and I don't see him for 3 weeks because
Right.
whatever?
And also, Luka, how does he handle postseason failure? Not that it was a bad failure. They lost in the finals to a
Right.
better team. But
Mm-hmm.
there were some holes in his game, and he addressed them. How
Mm-hmm.
hungry is he? He is a human being. He's not a cyborg. Let's see how he handles how things ended for him and the team, because we've seen it before where guys, man on a mission type of guy.
Yep.
Holy hell, could he be good? Could they be good if that happens?
Like Jaylen Brown in the Boston Celtics. Right.
Saying the same thing. Yep.
It's been reported that Klay had been offered 4-year deals with more money in other places, but turned it down for the 3-year offset because he figured better chance to win a title in Dallas with Luka and that crew. They just went to the finals, and the no state taxes in Texas. So my guess is one of the LA teams probably offered him 4 years and more money. Is my guess. And he chose Dallas.
Maybe not much more money because they do the math. I just know firsthand they do the math, and the veteran guys really know how to do the math fast with taxes, or they just call their accountant.
Yeah. Hey, do this quick math for me really quick.
Yeah. I've had players tell me if I go to California from where I live in a Texas state, let's say, or Florida,
Mm-hmm.
I have to make X to make the same I'm making now, but cost of living I have to factor in. I mean, I'm just telling you what they told me. I don't think about that. They're telling me. And so we chose to stay in the state we were in with lower taxes or no taxes. The teams are about the same, give or take, and the cost of living and the tax of those states were just too much. Yeah, just math.
Well, I mean, math, and I can just tell you from my own life experience, cost of living in Los Angeles, way more than cost of living in Dallas, Texas. That's just fact.
I mean,
it just is what it
the
is.
truth is, first of all, we should never count anyone else's money. I know we're not, nor should we impose our own judgment on other people for how we live our lives. That being said, if I could stay in a hotel for $200 and I could stay in a much larger room for $250 for a couple of nights, I'm not one of those guys that would take the 200 and save the $100 because when I'm dead, it won't matter, and it won't matter to whatever charity we give it away to. My kids won't need that extra $100. If you factor over a number of years, if it's in the thousands, but I had a better quality of life, I'm choosing that. I only have one dance around this thing. So, Klay Thompson's made how much money? Is he really counting a couple million? I question all these reportings and stuff like that. Very often, it just comes down to money, and he's got money, opportunity. That combination is great because Dallas again.
Yeah.
I mean, you should no longer be considered a non-contender because you lost Derrick Jones Jr. All respect to Derrick Jones Jr. Klay Thompson has to feel like, with me, he doesn't even know who Prosper is or Marshall is probably. He's guarded Marshall before.
Right.
But he's probably thinking, yeah, we're going to be really good. And they have Luka. That's
Well, he's thinking with me, Luka, and Kyrie, we're good.
Yeah,
We're good.
With the big guys inside. Yeah, just Lively alone. Yeah. He was watching the playoffs. All these guys watch the playoffs.
Oh, 100% they do. All right, folks, we'll be back after a brief commercial break. All right, David, the Clippers, we mentioned them. Paul George gone, but they did re-sign James Harden, 2 years, $70 million. They also, as I mentioned, signed Derrick Jones Jr., 3 years, 30. And Nicholas Batum is back in LA, 2 years, $10.6 million.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Look, the big thing for them is, losing Paul George. That's a big loss, right? That is a huge void to fill. Let's also be clear. We didn't say it up front, like it needs to be said, but Paul George gets a lot of flack for various things. That is an elite basketball player, like elite. And so that's a huge hole to fill. They have no one on the roster who can fill it by themselves.
But I agree with you. But let's just throw this out there. He's going to a place that's not going to suffer average very well. PG.
No. Oh, God. That first playoff game, he starts throwing up clunkers, they will boo mercilessly and kill him.
Put himself into the lion's mouth. Yeah.
Oh, listen, he better win now. I mean, look, better win is like whatever. You need luck and some things. Here's what he has to do. He has to perform well. The rest of the thing, they need luck, right? Things have to break their way, all the things that every championship team needs. I don't know if that's going to happen. We're a million months away from that. Who knows?
It does make me wonder. I don't want to hijack your show, but it does make me wonder. We have a magic wand. Let's do a couple of and Kawhi stays in Toronto, which means PG stays where he was. I'd be curious. It's not worked out well, Kawhi. I mean, you live at home, you get a chance to live at home and all that. In terms of basketball, you guys had won a championship and could have run it back. Obviously, Marc Gasol is no longer there, Kyle Lowry. But you could have run it back the next year or whatever. Yeah, I would have liked to see that.
Well, but here's my thing. I mean, does the magic wand mean he's also 100% healthy every season?
Say it again?
Does the magic wand also mean Kawhi is 100% healthy every season?
No, it's not that magical.
So then to me, it's the same situation, right? Because the quad is a chronic thing. So, okay, we won. He's still going to have the same problem, right? It's just he has a chronic injury that will only get better when he stops playing basketball.
You're right.
So
you're right.
It is what it is.
You're right.
And again, the Clippers, by the way, OKC. Shouts to OKC for winning that Paul George trade, by the way. I mean, man, they got SGA, all those picks, like Jesus Christ.
This is why I say
and you can see this
league. Like, SGA doesn't do this everywhere. He just doesn't. There's no history that suggests that he's definitely going to be top 5 in the world if he wherever he goes. I don't think so. But it worked out great for them.
Right.
They helped him turn into a hell of a player.
You're right. You're 100% right. And look, the Clippers, David, I think we're starting to see this may be the other side of that thing, right? For them, where
I think it's absolutely possible that we see a tear down in season. I think it's just me talking out loud. If Harden plays well and Kawhi plays well, I could see a move towards lots of young players and let's start fresh. Yeah.
And by the way, they played well last year. They just got hurt. Like Kawhi was, I mean, all NBA. Harden was great. PG was great. They just got hurt. Like as we said was likely going to happen to that crew. So yeah, we'll see what's going on with the Clippers. A trade happened, David, before all the free agency news started happening, and once I heard Hawks, before I even heard who it was, I was like, oh my God, did they do it? But they didn't. It wasn't Trae Young. They traded DeJounte Murray to the Pelicans, and the Pelicans sent back Larry Nance Jr., EJ Liddell, Dyson Daniels, who I like a lot, and 2 first-round picks. And now DeJounte Murray is in New Orleans. So now with Murray, CJ, Zion, Brandon Ingram, David, it's a lot of salary on New Orleans books on a team that, what the hell were they last year? Let me check their record. New Orleans Pelicans.
They were 49 and 33.
49 and 33. 8th spot, which for that much money you're spending, not great. What do they do now, you think?
You wonder if Murray...
Someone's got to move,
You wonder if Murray has more to give defensively on a better team than kind of stuck with was in Atlanta. You want to think that he does. He was a very good offensive player last year. But they need his offense. Yeah, they need his offense. So I don't love it. I like it fine. Yeah. Everyone wants to find their Derek White, the guy that's helps put you over the edge, and Drew Holiday too.
Andrew
Yeah,
Holiday,
I don't
yeah.
know if he's that way. He's good. He's a good player. They're gonna be good. Yeah, but I'm not really totally sure. A lot of times on Zion, obviously, how healthy is he and can he shoot? Yeah, I think there's some problems at the five as well.
Zion being healthy and being all NBA, and Brandon Ingram, should we not forget, also being healthy is
They
key.
may trade him
Word
though.
rumors about he
Yeah,
might be on the
yeah.
move. Yeah. I don't know where, but there's a possibility that he could be on the move, and that because I know Griffin can't be happy with all that salary, and not forget about him. The ownership group in New Orleans can't be thrilled with all that. So we'll see what happens there. What about the Hawks, David? So they got Daniels, who I like as a defender. I think they got more defensive guys around Trey. It seems like they're going to be like, we're rolling with this trade thing until it's proven otherwise, which I'm not sure I love.
I don't know about Trey. I know that I think they're going to start, just collecting young players and kind of rebuild out something. That's what I think. I think Quinn Snyder really likes Trey. I've heard that before a few times.
Okay.
So if Quinn feels like, let's just keep bringing new players in around Trey and let's just kind of reform him to the face of everybody else. It's got a chance to work. But I mean, definitely
I
trade
mean,
some
to be
other
fair,
guys down.
he's an
Yep,
elite offensive
yep,
player. Elite,
yep.
to be fair. So I don't
Right.
want to make it seem like Trey's not good. It's just that, all the coaches that went through there and everything, I'm like,
Yeah, it's been a long, drawn out car crash.
and he hasn't been in the league that long. That's what makes it so crazy. I'm like, not like you've been here 10 years. Like, very
Sure.
wild. So the Nuggets we mentioned, let's talk about them. They lost KCP. He's going to Orlando, 3-year, $66 million deal. And Klay is already over in Dallas, it looks like. So that starting slot for for Denver, looking like slim pickings. You and I talked this morning. They could put Christian Brown there. We just don't think that's
Well,
the
I
answer.
think that's the answer because that's what Calvin Booth said, but um, I'm not buying it. I mean, it's what you hope for. It's why you draft these guys. This is
Right.
on Mike Malone coaching staff. How well did you bring him along? If he ends up being 38% from three, really defends well, smart IQ,
Been great.
fantastic. But yeah, I'm not sure I buy that.
Nothing you've seen. And look, and they have players, by the way, as David mentioned, players you shouldn't forget about. Julian Strother, who I like a lot. Peyton Watson, like guys that have talent. And maybe now Malone's,
They have a
no
choice.
choice now. Well, we have nobody else. You
Yeah,
have to
that
play
great
these
starting
people.
lineup's gone. That amazing starting lineup, that's the league. It's gone. So you got to do something else now. You got to pivot to plan B.
And there's been reports, and again, I don't know how true it is, that the Nuggets are looking at Russell Westbrook as a possible addition to their team. I'm like,
As a trade?
I don't know how much that helps. No, it would be a trade, yeah, because
Yeah.
he opted into his $4
Right.
million
I saw
deal.
that,
So
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I don't know how much he helps that situation.
He can help it because,
A veteran ball handler, obviously.
actually, I'll argue one that takes direction from Jokic, who's the primary ball handler. Yeah.
That's true.
It could be good.
Yeah.
Not sure that's a difference maker
Imagine
$4 million a year, but yeah, it'd be good.
Westbrook running off cuts and Jokic diming him up. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm in. He competes on defense.
That's about what he does.
Okay.
Competes. Sometimes.
Sometimes. That's true. Not all the time. Real quick on Orlando. Obviously KCP gives them threes, which God, they need someone to at least attempt threes because they didn't shoot a ton. Jalen Suggs, possibly the other starter in that backcourt now. It looks
that's
like
what it'll be, and we don't know if Suggs is an organizing one. He was drafted to be that. I'm not convinced he wasn't that in college. I'm not convinced he's been in the NBA. That doesn't mean he can't grow into that. But they're going to be a challenging team to score, and they're going to score better. I don't know
their asses off.
If they're done even. Maybe they could try to upgrade at the 5. They're set at the 1. We'll see how good Suggs is, but they're set for him. He's going to be the starting 1. At the 2 and the 3 and the 4, let's see what they do at the 5 now with Wendell Carter Jr. being the guy right now.
And I mentioned when we talked about OKC, what if J-Dub makes a leap? Well, what if Paolo makes a leap this year?
He does.
Right?
And year 3.
Well, I mean, that's obviously what they hope. So he gets
in year 4.
Early all-star buzz. Like, then that's it. Now we're cooking with gas over there. So lots to be hopeful for if you're an Orlando Magic fan. They seem to be headed in the right direction. So one of our favorite players in the league, Chris Paul, he was released by the Warriors. He will be going to San Antonio to play with the Spurs on a 1-year, $11 million deal. And the idea here is that he's going to help with the development of Victor Wembanyama. For sure, I mean, who understands pick and roll as well as Chris Paul, right? I mean, in the history of basketball, probably a short list of people, if there are any people who understand it better than he does. So that'd be a nice player to have, just his intelligence and IQ wise. And that's the reporting, is that he talked to Pop, obviously, before deciding to come over there. And that was a big, intriguing piece for him, was working and playing with Victor Wembanyama. What do you think about that?
I know they don't like it when you bring in a veteran to tutor his replacement, but this isn't that. We reported and we talked about Harden doing this with Zubats to good effect. So
Yep.
yeah, I think that Wemby seems really competitive. Chris Paul's really competitive. I think that he could probably teach him a lot about the pick and roll game, and for a year, it's a year deal, right?
And then I joke, David, finally, a competent player who can throw an entry pass to Victor. Yay! We have one on this team.
Very true.
Watching Spurs games and watching them screw up. I'm like, guys, what are you doing? Like, don't they teach you that on day one of basketball? Here's how you throw an entry pass.
It'd be good to do
it. So kudos. So we'll see how that works. The Spurs still will be bad next year. But if Victor was already all defensive team, first team last year. I mean, my God, if that shooting stroke comes around, he might, just because he's so awesome, luck them into a 10 seed where they're fighting for a play-in, because he's just so incredible. And I hope we see that, because that's awesome. David, the Celtics extended Derek White 4 years, $126 million. I did the math on it again. Perfect deal based on his estimated wins and dollar cost per win. I was like, wow, good deal. And Whit Grossbeck, after winning the NBA title, says the Celtics are now up for sale. And this is, to me, one thing in mind. He's selling high. Value's probably not going to be as high as it was right now. He bought this team a long time ago. And with all those extensions in now, the Celtics will have a huge tax bill coming due, not this season, but next season. And what a good way to get out of paying that tax bill and taking some nice profits on your way out. Kudos to Whit Grossbeck for making the Celtics for sale. We'll see who buys the team. That's a whole other issue.
You got to remember, you got expansion coming. That'll more than cover the tax bill, the $2 billion. So I bet he may price that in. When you sell the team, he may price in the big ticket they're going to get for the expansion. Yeah. Well, he won the championship. He doesn't have the appetite for a second, apparently. That's fine. Yeah.
Is what it is. I hope whoever buys it continues and wants to do the right thing and keep winning, or whatever, doesn't decide tear down, sell everybody, or whatever, because that won't be great. I mean, it won't matter to me. I'm not a Celtics fan, but I'm sure Celtics fans won't be happy about that. There are a couple of free agents left, David, and a couple more than that. Gary Trent Jr., DeMar DeRozan, Miles Bridges, Buddy Hield, Tyus Jones, Markelle Fultz, Darren Barlow. Any name out of those group I just mentioned pique your interest?
Not particularly. I think all of them can help teams. You just got to find the right situation. There's a bunch more. You never know the guy. No one thought Derek Jones Jr. doing what he did, but that's the beauty of this thing. You got to make the right pick, and you got to bring the right guy in. You got to give him chances to do it, and the guy hopefully is prepared to do. Working his ass off all the time just in case he gets his chance to shine. Because Jones Jr. wasn't playing for a while, and all of a sudden he played, and the rest is history.
Yeah. No, and we talked about Tyus Jones. We like him a lot. DeRozan, I think, still has value in this league for sure. Miles Bridges, I know he's got the domestic violence thing, but before that, dude was borderline all-star. Did he make an all-star?
All these guys. I've already on that list and others. They all can help a team. They just got to, team's got to be smart, and that isn't always the case. It isn't often the case.
Yeah, and get him in the right scenario. David, Jamal Crawford posted something interesting that you dropped in the chat about basketball trainers, and I thought it was interesting because this is I don't like to use the word trainer, player development, which is what you do, the business you essentially started. And Jamal talked about how parents are paying these trainers all this money for their kids to develop a bag, right? And, everyone who watches basketball, you know what the term bag means, right? It's all your little moves and things that get you on YouTube and SportsCenter and all the things that are amazing. And Crawford really pointed out some interesting things, right? He's like, half the things that these guys are working on, 1%, if that, of the NBA. So the best players in the world try those things in games. And you got young kids working on this nonsense. Do they know how to play the game? What kind of teammates are they? And, when I read that, I'm like, oh my God, this is music to David's ears. Because this is his whole business. And I thought, David, it was interesting, his comments based upon some of the stuff I saw on Twitter about the deal that Hartenstein signed. People who don't understand basketball say things like, oh my God, $30 million for a guy who scores 7 points a game. And I'm like, you don't understand the game if that is your response to him signing that kind of a deal. But I know you have thoughts.
I thought it was ironic. Jamal Crawford is him still having a bag, and not.
I mean, he's got quite a bag.
He's the 1%. I worked out a player today, former first round pick, crazy talented, big athletic wing. And the very first thing we did today is learning how to tip the ball on tip drills. And then there's drills that are now called the Thorpe drills. You can go on YouTube and see them because I made them up a long time ago. And it's just throw it off the board, jump up high, keep your arms really high, finish it, play with fakes and pivots, whatever. Very basic stuff. And then we did a drill that I learned when I was a high school kid called Kill the Grass. I used to call it Magic Circle, but it's basically you're in a section of the court. You imagine there's grass everywhere. You have to kill it with the ball and your shoes. You're moving your feet and moving the ball 30 seconds at a time, fast as hell. He remembered it from me doing with him in a previous out last year out west. We worked on really good fakes, really good shot fakes, really good violent fakes in the paint. Basic stuff. Sudden starts, sudden stops. Taking good angles to get past guys. We didn't do it today, but we'll work on his weak hand passing. So if he's going left, he can throw with his left hand and throw it across his body. I probably am not great at teaching bags. I know how to guide guys to get buckets, but I try to keep it pretty simple. We don't do step backs, although the guys all know how to do it when they get to me at this point. I've never taught a step back in my life. They just know how to do it. There's a little footwork scene that you do. And yeah, I think that he's right though, that, as somebody who sees a lot of these workouts every day, they're not working with guys on winning possessions as much as they are trying to make tough shots. And it's just not a great strategy for most guys.
Which, again, most of you who are training and trying to get, you're not going to be the one taking those tough shots. Like, you're already on a team with 2 or 3 dudes who that's what they do, not you. And one of my favorite stories you told is a player you're working out, and you talking about, oh, coach, how long do you think before I'll get good at mastering this skill? You're like 4 years.
I like told this really brilliant point guard. They're about 4 years away from being an elite ball handler. And he thinks he might get there in 3. Yeah, I think it's great. By the way, he's really worked. He's really worked at it. So yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard to do this kind of stuff. Yeah, today we had a guy. I have like his own personal PT came with it. I think he's an MD. He might have a PhD. I'm not sure. We call him doctor, so it's one or the other. And and the player had the polar thing around his waist. And in fact, I could even read to you. I'm gonna tell you what his numbers were saying. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, this is boring for all of you, but
no,
here we go. I got a screenshot. Stuff. So it was my workout. It was 1 hour and 29 minutes and 20 seconds. This was the lightest workout of the week. He's not been. He had an injury that to deal with, so he's nowhere in shape. So this is the easiest workout we'll have. We're gonna ramp it up over the course of time. His average heart rate was 163 beats per minute. His highest was 182. He burned 11% from his calories for the day in 1.5 hours. Yeah, 1,395 kilocalories. The average mile was 6.39, 6 minutes and 9 seconds. And this was the slowest workout we'll have for sure.
And this is a guy who's injured who's got to deal. Like, so imagine what a fully healthy, he's ready. Like what a workout is like. Like you people think that like basketball is just this thing. You just put on some shoes and you just show up on court and do whatever. And it's like,
let him dunk.
No, like
I didn't let him dunk. Hard. We only did a couple of drills where I had him race full speed, just because he wouldn't be ready. He had just been back a couple of weeks. Then he had to take a week off. Now he's fully healthy, and that's why we have this guy monitoring everything to make sure. Yeah, it's freaking hard, man. Like he loved it too. He's dripping with sweat and having to get his breath a couple of times. Yeah, you got to do this 4 days a week typically. Some of the days are a little bit slower, but we'll do 4 hard ones this week.
And again, folks, we're so blessed here at Troop that we have David's knowledge and insight, and he shares things with us. And with David, when he's working with his players, he will never say to us anything about bags or whatever. He's working with a young kid. It's very clear. What is our pathway to starting? Okay, I see this is all David cares about. Okay, we're gonna get to this and this. Then you're gonna make this contract because you're putting this. That is his only goal. How can I get you on the floor, stay here, and stay here as long as possible?
Get in the
rotation. Whatever way that looks like.
Get in the rotation. Go up in the rotation. Get in the starting lineup. Move up in the starting lineup in terms of pecking order. Build value. That's my job. It used to be get guys scholarships. Get them good enough in high school to play well enough so ultimately they can get a scholarship. You had to personally play well in high school. Today we worked on screen setting and then being elusive in ghost screens. And I literally was telling him, we set screens to make defenders think. I tell my players the same thing I told you about. And so when you make it very clear you're going to go screen, no one's thinking. Clearly you're not going to go screen anyone. You've got to give them the impression, I'm going to stop you, which means sometimes you have to stop and set the screen. Then you got to hold the screen. Depending on how long you hold it is a little bit contingent on what the defense does. And at other times, slow down and suddenly be elusive and speed up, and that's when you ghost it. If we did all that kind of stuff, yeah. And it's the game. This is how the game is played. Yeah. And afterwards, the physio came over to me and said, he had never seen me work on a guy before, and he said, I like how you made them think about stuff on the court. Like, that's what the game is, buddy. You got it. You can't just, he's like, well, every work that I see, because this guy sees his stuff all day. Everything is just so scripted, like the drill's the thing. No, the drill is supposed to be a little piece of what the game is. And the game is nothing but decision-making nonstop. There are plenty of coaches who do force decision-making in their drills. And that's a good thing.
Screening, tipping. Yeah. Listen to the things that David's talking about, right? Angles. Like, what? We ain't talking about bags.
We were doing,
like, you got to get these things
short
down.
Rolls off ball screens because this player is a swing player. You can go inside and outside. And one of my assistants who'd been in the NBA and the G League in college for, I think, a good decade, very, very smart guy. He's under the basket kind of evaluating the player. We just had one player today. And so he right away said, okay, you short rolled to the nail area, but you didn't occupy the tagger who's coming from one of the corners. You've got to eyeball that corner shooter to freeze him so you can make the play at the rim. If you just go to the rim and he's a decent shot blocker, you might get to it, whatever. You got to be mindful of, I'm always looking at where's the ball at the gas. Because and when I told him early in the workout, you're bringing the ball right to where the bad guys are. You've got to hide it. He said, I should have learned that lesson all year this year because he got stripped a good amount. And I remember asking a very good player who's now playing overseas in Asia, making up, $600,000 a year, which ain't nothing. But he made me NBA. He played me NBA for a while. I remember being so impressed with how over an hour and a half workout, never once did I think he exposed the ball to where the defense would be. And I said, who taught you how to do that? He said, experience. He just got stripped of time and just learned I got to hide the ball. So I work on this stuff in high school when high school. So this is the game. Sure is.
It's a hard game, folks. Really hard game. And those elite players trick you into thinking it's easy because they work their asses off. It ain't. It ain't easy at all. All right, folks. Enjoy. Pay attention to free agency, what trades come down. The July 4th holiday is on Thursday, so we will not have a show the rest of the week. Everybody enjoy the rest of this week, and we'll be back on Monday. We'll break everything down. David had an article come out today on troop.com. You should be subscribed, recapping the draft. Really quick, David talked about this last week. He talked about it again in the article, and he and I agree. And it's not about anything beyond. I just think that the Lakers are the worst place for Bronny James to go to think about basketball. Any other place would be better than there, because it's just going to be this constant show all the time about when's he coming up, he needs none of that. Like he needs literally to be like when Rocky IV, when he went to Russia to go train, he needs to be away from everything. That's where he needs to be, working, and none of this media stuff in his face.
So the end of season 2, I'm not going to divulge much, but you remember the Bear, the Army, is kind of blaming some mistakes that he made on the fact that he fell in love with a girl.
Yeah.
And he just wants to be super focused. He, of course, came around realizing, if a new series has started, it's not fair to blame, the love interest, nor should you feel like you can't love someone and also be good at your job. But this isn't that. This is hey, there's a gigantic 3-ring circus going on here, but I got to work on my handle and shot making and decision making and blah blah blah, strength and whatever. And it's just easily get distracted. He's young. I'm worried. I'll see him in Vegas. I'm very hopeful, but I'm worried.
Yeah, I agree. All right, folks, enjoy, and we will see you next week. Take care.